Okay, well, here we go. I know it's been lazy and haven't started, but here we go with my mom's memoirs. I am, like I promised, there'll be pictures every once in a while. I mean, really old ones. So, um, let's talk about a little bit of her history just before mom was born. Picked up where he had muscular dystrophy, and my grandmother had to take care of her husband. Since my father could not work anymore for his brother-in-law did, of course, not pay my father any more salary. Of course, they had a big fight, and from that moment on, they did not like each other at all. My aunt, of course, helped her sister out where she could, and my father taught her in exchange bookkeeping. My father's parents, who lived in Bookabord, were only 20-minute train ride from Minden. Never bothered to help. They never liked my father's choice of marriage. My mother was far too modern for their taste. Plus, she was Catholic, and she smoked a lot, which was in that time really bad. My grandparents were already very prejudiced against anything different. Meanwhile, we had to move to, here we go, Baden-Alsen. I'm not pronouncing these German words very good, but oh well. It's a picture of my grandfather in 1914, somehow serving as maybe an officer in the First World War. Doesn't say, don't know. Of course, that's would be my mother in the middle with mama and daddy, and I'm assuming this is one of their first houses, maybe in Berlin, or that weird Baden thing that she talks about. And we'll just turn the page and see some other just relative photos and such. You can see the way the dresses were. I think that's probably nope, that is not my mother. That is a cousin in 1938, it looks like. Anyways, they're scattered all around, but interesting old photos. Okay, so where were we at here? As I just kind of zero in on a photo here. Just to have something there. Okay, so so they lived in a resort where kings and other famous people came to seek health, because, again, remember I was talking about the name Baden in the if it's in the body of the town, it is a hot springs town. My father took the baths there too on a regular basis. He was still in a wheelchair, but soon he was on crutches. With his strong determination, he would be walking again, and soon he was walking with only a cane. Of course, his legs, arms, and hand muscles never grew back. I always remember him being skinny. With physical therapy and exercise, it would get a little bit better, but he could not do sports. My mother was a very sporty person. She swam, played tennis, and loved to dance. She was in many dance tournaments and won prizes for it, but not with my father. She was always dressed in the newest fashion. Her younger sister, Gertrude, was a fine dressmaker and came often to her visit from East Prussia. Now let's get another photo in here just so I can talk and you can look at these old-timey people. My mother took me already at a very early age to her parents in East Prussia. It was always a very long train ride. Once the train stopped at a station and my mother went out to get some milk for me at the stand. When she looked back, she saw the train had started to move and she had to hurry, but she caught the train all right. They told me that I even had taken my first steps there in Hohenstein. Say that really fast. I don't know. Just some more pictures, just so we can just keep going here and you can just see these old-timey pictures. Okay, where are we at? Okay, my grandfather worked. I have a picture somewhere of grandfather. That's probably grandfather right there, or right there. Worked at Hohenstein at the railroad in the summertime on his farm. I can remember that I always had the best time there. My mother's younger sisters were still at home. Aunt Trude and Aunt Gretel and youngest Aunt Liska. All the sisters called her Cossack. That would be my grandmother that they're calling, because of her temperament, dark hair, and blue eyes. She was very pretty and came often to visit us we would go swimming in one of the many lakes, pick blueberries and mushrooms, and all the aunts spoiled me, of course. There were always little animals for me to play with. My father went with my grandpa fishing, and they brought good catch home. My grandmother would fry the fresh fish. So they're talking that she had a good life. My mom had a very good life. Like I said, they were definitely not poor, and they were probably higher middle class, if there was such a thing. They would go to concerts, and my parents told me that I would stand right in front of the orchestra and flirting with some of the band members. My father told me that I had always been a quite charmer with my blonde curly hair. Well, we're going to see if I can find a picture of Mom with her curly hair. Don't know if I can. Anyways, here's some more oldie photos. Look at that. Wow. These are from my mom's album that I should probably get put in on a CD before they are destroyed. You never know what happens if there's a flood. And I will be out pictures of, wow, some of these that are, like I said, very, 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 very old. As you can tell by about the dress there. I would say yes. They're very old photos. Anyways, so at one time we went to my mother's parents for Christmas. I do not remember too much about it since I was too little, but I do remember that my grandfather hitched his horse in the front of a big sleigh, and we would all be sitting in the back covered in blankets. Again, just enjoying life. In Germany, we were experiencing the Great Depression. There was no work and long lines for everything, the money. So this is, now we're talking, I don't know, probably 1930s maybe? My father was working now at a newly founded employment office. It was often very dangerous because men got angry since there was no work and they could not take care of their families. Since it was always a very short train ride to Buchenberg, where my father's parents lived, we went mostly on weekends to visit them. My mother did not like my grandparents very much, which was mutual because they did not like her either. Grandmother had ruined my mother's wedding, which was to be in East Prussia and was planned down to the last detail. It would have been a big wedding, but at the last moment, the grandmother told everybody that she was very sick and therefore could not make the trip. That was not true. She just didn't want to take the trip and faked the illness, and because of the illness, now the wedding had to be canceled at my mom's hometown, and of course made everyone angry. And so I guess there was not a lot to be said there. Here's a photo. That is an uncle. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know much of him, but it's Uncle Alfred, it looks like. And here's little classroom pictures. I don't think that's hers. And here in 1934, looky there. That looks like, to me, maybe brown shirts. Not for sure, but there you go. Now remember, that's probably uncles or so. Here's my grandfather in uniform. I know that's my grandfather at a younger age, but that would have been my mother's dad. Okay. Yeah, we got all kinds of oldie pictures coming up. This was looks like 1918, and that would be my grandfather on mom's side. Everything's from my mom's side. I'm not going to keep saying that. This was him in 1913. Not for sure what that is. Somebody in a uniform, huh? And then again, my grandfather. Now this would be, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it in focus. There we go, 1940. So again, these photos are kind of scattered. I'm not saying they're in perfect order. So this would have been probably a great-grandma of some sort and a great-grandfather of some sort. And I'll just put that like that so I can read a little bit more. Okay, so we read about how grandma on my grandfather's side, ruined the whole goddamn wedding. And that's why there's always bad blood between them and didn't like each other. And what else shall I say about her background? Oh yeah, I guess on the dad's side, he was a very cheap man and didn't. Again, they didn't care for the woman he married, my grandmother. My mother hated it, especially when they went weekends visiting with them, and on Sundays they went to Bad Elson, another spa. And before they went on the small special train, they would stop at a local bakery and bought always some cheap bakery stuff and took it along. When they got to the town, they went always to the same garden restaurant, ordered only coffee for them and my parents, and for me, a glass of milk, and they would unwrap the old sweet rolls and eat them with everybody staring at them. And my mother, I guess that would be my grandmother. My mother always felt very embarrassed. That really hated to visit them. My grandfather retired very early from his job working for the Duke's provincial government in Schaumburg. Paid him a very good pension, but he claimed he had ulcers and left. So anyways, there's a lot about how much they didn't like their grandparents. My mom didn't like her grandparents on her dad's side. At the grandparents in Bookborg, I was not allowed to pick any fruit off the fruit trees by myself, even so the fruit tree garden was much larger. The grandpa there would pick the fruit for me. Sometimes when a peach or other fruit had fallen onto the ground, he would pick it up, and with his finger he would take any rotten stuff out and then give it to me to eat. Every time when I saw this, my stomach would turn, and when he was not looking, I'd just throw it away. So, very interesting, about cheap people. I know, it's just, terrible. Here's a special page. I'm going to end with reading the special page and start another episode. This would be, I guess, my grandfather and Uncle Alfred, so I guess it's his brother, again, in uniform before World War II. However, this one, I'm not for sure who it is. Looks like my mom, but it's not. But so I could tell where my mom and some more uniforms. This is my mother. And so I'll just kind of end with this special page and start another one later. Okay, now and then you will find more of those. Okay, after Germany had lost World War I, the Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm found exile in Holland and left Germany together with the Empress. His family was allowed to stay in Germany. Germany now became a republic with a president, the loved and honored General von Hindenburg. He was especially loved by the people of East Prussia because he commanded the Eastern Front and did not let the Russian troops into East Prussia. He pushed the Russians back into the Masurian lakes, where most of them drowned. And to thank him, the people later on built him a big monument near Hohenstein and called it the Hindenburg Monument. Well, Papa Hindenburg, as he would be lovingly called, was an excellent general, but he did not have the experience to govern a country, especially not one that lay destroyed on the ground. Chancellors changed like dirty shirts. The monetary situation was getting worse. They were printing paper money that lost its worth quicker than anything. Only gold kept it worth. My grandfather in Buckeburg was lucky and won in a lottery a lot of gold mark, and with his money he did the only good thing in his life. He bought a big property in Buckeburg and the railroad station and built a 2-story house on it with a big basement. He did not scrimp on the plan, and he himself talked into using an old architectural plan to build the house. His daughter-in-law's father was in real estate, and he got him a plan cheap, and it never turned out, into a 2-family apartment. So anyways, meanwhile, the people in Germany were very unhappy with the whole situation, and for a while it looked like communists were on the rise. Another party was also on the rise. They called themselves the Nationalist Socialist Party. In Austrian, Adolf Hitler became interested. He was unemployed and disillusioned. Since he was a dynamite speaker, they took notice of him. He worked himself up as their leader. Since he was involved in many uproars, he landed for a while in jail and prison. There he wrote the book Mein Kampf. After his release from prison, he went back to the Nationalist Party and became their official leader. Since at that time there had been many assassinations, he built around himself an army of brown shirts and called them SA. They wore a red armband in the middle as a white circle with the black swastika called the Hakenkreuz. I'm not for sure what that kreuz is cross. Oh, the hooked cross. Hitler promised the people work and well-being. His party grew, and in the next election he became Germany's new Reich leader. Hindenburg was getting old and he was weak. So he let Hitler mostly a free hand in everything. My father did not... Here you go. My father did not like Adolf Hitler. I'm trying to tell you that not everyone was in awe of him. Okay, so my father did not like Adolf Hitler. He found him too fanatical and high-strung. The Prussian people did not like him that much either, since he was not really considered a German, but an Austrian. But one had to say everything was getting slowly better. Hitler was very much for the farmers, miners, and factory workers. He knew that he needed them first and foremost. So we're going to end it there. We'll start with some more of Adolf Hitler's, how he became into power in the view of a German, that all were not in awe of him.